Thanks. I'll be sharing time with Deputy Barry, 7 minutes and 3 minutes. Minister, I just got off the phone with a friend of mine who's a wheelchair user and disability rights campaigner, and I said, what should I say in this debate? And he asked me to express his absolute outrage at the way the government has handled the referendum. And at this point, he's going to vote no on the carers referendum. And he's doing that as somebody who voted for repeal, voted for marriage equality, is passionately supportive of women's rights and women's equality, but he feels absolutely failed and insulted by the fact that the government have not included in the referendum rights for people with disabilities and indeed for carers, right? He feels the strive to phrase is an insult which means nothing and has no trust in the government that this is, I think, to use the Taoiseach's phrase, a stepping stone towards anything from the point of view of people with disabilities. He pointed out, to justify his, in my opinion, justified anger, that on Friday, many people, some people with disabilities still may not be able to access polling booths. That even now, that is still a reality in some cases. He pointed out that he has been waiting for a service for his wheelchair since November. And as he put it, his wheelchair is his legs when you're a wheelchair user. But he's waiting for that since November. And he was particularly enraged by Leo Varadkar's, I didn't hear it, but it was been commented on today, Leo Varadkar's performance, I think it was on the radio. You mentioned it, what? TV. On TV, where he talked about, you know, family members. If somebody in his family needed care, it would be the family members who would do it. And as my friend pointed out, that's all very well if you're getting paid a couple of €100,000 a year. Maybe you have the resources to do that, but for huge amounts of people in this country, they don't have the resources to do that. And the state has an obligation to guarantee the rights of people with disabilities. And, you know, in a way, this is the problem, isn't it, with the referendum? Because, of course, I still, and I said this to them, I said with no enthusiasm, I will vote yes. Yes, because it at least removes an obnoxious reference to women's place in the home, but it is, I totally get your anger at this, because it has totally failed people with disabilities and carers, and indeed has insulted them and enraged them. Now that is a spectacular failure by the government to have succeeded in doing that. But you see, what's common with the existing constitution, which, and this is my argument, but it's a difficult enough argument to make because the government have made a bags of it. The existing constitution did less than nothing for women. In fact, it failed women disastrously, and it failed people with disabilities for the entire history of the state, right? But what people were expecting is something better and a clear commitment to rights, and instead what we got, and it's echoed in the Taoiseach's words, is the old reliance on the family to pick up, whether it's carers or women, which is overwhelmingly women, to pick up the bill for the failure of the state to provide the resources and services and guarantee and enshrine the rights of people with disabilities and carers in the Constitution. And so, as a result, the government is risking a defeat on this, and sadly, tragically, is pitting two groups of people who both want to fight for progressive social rights in this country, for women and for people with disabilities, has sadly ended up pitting them against one another. That's what the government have succeeded in doing, because it didn't want to commit to rights in the Constitution. And of course, that just, if you like, is the latest instance of the failure to legislate for rights generally. Because this isn't just about the Constitution, although people take the Constitution seriously, but it's about the failure of the government to legislate and provide the services to guarantee equality for people with disabilities, most spectacularly instanced in the failure to ratify the optional protocol, which would make the government legally accountable to ensure equality for people with disabilities. And that, of course, coming on the heels of an 11-year-long fight to get, by disability campaigners, by people with disabilities, to get the UNCRPD itself ratified, which the government dragged its heels on, but still doesn't want to ratify the optional protocol. So at this stage, to be honest, there has to be a clear commitment, and we are certainly making it. In fact, we'll have a bill in front of this Dáil the next week or so, saying there has to be another referendum that is going to put rights for disabilities into the Constitution, what you should have done this time, but you failed to do. That has to be a commitment, and we need dates for the optional protocol, and we need the services and resources to actually ensure, because as my friend said, living with disability in Ireland is a nightmare. That's what he said, is a nightmare, right? That nightmare has to be ended. The existing Constitution has certainly failed people, but so has this government, and therefore people have lost their trust in the government.